time to take a look at Paul Charchian's 5 players to add this week on FantasyVictory.com, starting with the most talked about player in the NFL, Johnny Manziel.
Johnny Manziel is my top free agent addition this week. Last Sunday, Brian Hoyer desperately needed a great game to quiet all the Manziel talk, and instead he threw 0 touchdowns, 140 yards, and pounded the nails in his coffin with a game-losing interception. His passer rating was an awful 31. If only for the survival of his job as head coach. Mike Pettin has little choice here but to let that first-round quarterback play next week, and Manziel should really be the guy. In fact, by the time you watch this, I think he will be officially named the guy. I don't expect Manziel to pass well against Cincinnati this week on Sunday. Cincinnati is a great pass defense, but I could see him running for meaningful yards really in every remaining game, and rushing quarterbacks have a huge statistical advantage in fantasy football, and Manziel could be a wild card in your fantasy playoffs. You know, if you take a typical Manziel passing line, which might be like 130 yards and 1 touchdown, which isn't very good, but you add in 50 rushing yards, his points just doubled, add in a rushing touchdown to go with it, and suddenly Manziel's like a top 5 quarterback. And so, you know, the rushing yards really skew things towards Manziel. You know, in free agency, at this point, most of you don't have a lot of cap budget left, but if I would say whatever 20% of your original cap would be about right for Johnny Manziel.
The Minnesota Vikings backfield a little banged up, and Mike Zimmer admitted that Matt Asiata just played too much. So Ben Tate, the guy you have to pick up.
Ben Tate, in back-to-back weeks, the Vikings have asked Matt Asiata to carry the load as their lead back in place of Jerick McKinnon. And in both cases, he was not productive. He failed to score in both games. He ran for just 52 and 54 yards. He hasn't topped 4 yards a carry since week 5. So there's Matt Asiata for you right there. You know, I'm not the biggest Ben Tate supporter in the world. I've recommended people drop him like 8 times this year at various times. But the Vikings need to shake up their running game, and Tate's the next man up. I think there's a greater than 50% chance that he's the starting running back for the Vikings on Sunday. So that means you can place a semi-healthy bid on him, 15% of your original cap value.
Guy who's been a high-end tight end in the past, but is just a kind of a walking concussion lately, Jordan Cameron. Maybe a time to revive that.
I think it is. It's been a disastrous year for the injury-plagued Jordan Cameron, but he finally played last week, and sure enough, he led the team in receptions and yards. Granted, those receptions and yards only amounted to 4 receptions and 41 yards, but still, it was the best on the team. And a promising sign from a preseason top 10, top 7 tight end. So I think you can go be aggressive with him. It could be a case where Johnny Manziel wants to make some things happen with his feet, extend some plays, finds his tight end. Why not? Manziel's going to shake things up. I think in totality, Manziel will end up helping Cameron as well. I would bid, say, 15% of your original cap budget to go get Cameron.
Brandon Marshall's season is done in Chicago, and you like Marcus Wilson as the next man up.
He's the next man up. I don't love him as a player, but he is the next man up. He'll take Brandon Marshall's spot and probably for the rest of the year at this point. In a lost season, the Bears may choose to just, and they've put Brandon Marshall on IR. So, Wilson was last year's 7th round pick. He's a tall, skinny guy. He's super, super raw. He drops a lot of passes. But he faces a terrible Saints secondary this week, which puts him on the radar as a possible deep sleeper, either for your league or even better maybe for daily leagues where he'll probably be basically free in FanDuel, DraftKings type leagues. So in free agency, I think you're blind bidding him out here, no more than 5% of your cap, and that will get him.
The Bears homer in me likes that pick. I see a lot of Marvin Jones-esque in him, that potential for that random big game.
You think he's going to break his foot?
No,
not that kind of Marvin Jones potential.
Yeah, that kind of potential.
All right, good.
If he gets some opportunities, some good potential for Juwan Thompson.
Look, anybody who runs the ball for the Broncos has got prospects, and C.J. Anderson's got a gimpy ankle, and it doesn't look like Hillman or Monty Ball are going to be back next week. So that should open the door for a bigger role for Juwan Thompson, maybe even the starting role if that ankle isn't right for C.J. Anderson. And really, just doesn't matter who runs the ball for the Broncos. That guy is going to have some fantasy success and maybe a lot of fantasy success. So watch C.J. Anderson's injury and have Thompson ready just in case. Your recommended free agency blind bidding is about 5% of your original cap.
All right, 5 players to target on waivers this week from Paul Charchian. There are 2 more only at FantasyVictory.com.